thing with Avi Loeb is this, man. He's not talking about Mars. He ain't gonna tell you nothing about this here. He's gonna tell you all about this other stuff around there, but he ain't gonna talk about that. You get this on Google Mars Trek, and just go to it, and you look. You in a little small spot, and then you'll find these micro size, and you'll find screenshot in the middle of this. It's telling about the civilizations here on Mars. Talk about that. Talk about that. If you're gonna tell us about some pro way out in the solar system, the risk, threat that it may be to us here. Earth, like we the only ones. You're not talking about this. They're talking about what's on Mars. Tell me about what's this on Mars. Tell me about that. Tell me about that. You ain't talking about that. No, you ain't talking about that. You ain't said nothing about this. Professor Avi Loeb is a Harvard professor, and he's making the claim again that like he did in 2017 about Oumuamua, whatever he thought was perhaps alien probe. He's saying the same thing now about what he sees out here now. Check him out.
The story of this object is very peculiar. It actually lies in the orbital plane of the planets around the Sun, within 5 degrees or so. And that is a coincidence that has a chance of 0.2%. Think about driving your car. In 1 hour, you traverse a distance that this object is traversing in 1 second. The other unusual fact about its trajectory is that it comes very close to the inner planets other than Earth, like Jupiter, Mars, or Venus. And the chance of that happening, given the trajectory, one can change the arrival time of this object, and only in 20,000 cases you end up with such a close proximity to the planets, because they orbit around the Sun, and the chance of being so close to them is very small. So the unusual trajectory of this object offers the possibility that it might have been designed so as to have some goals of a reconnaissance mission. So it's possible that it's a comet, but if that's the case, it will become very clear as it comes closer to the Sun and gets heated, so that its evaporation rate gets much larger, and then the glow of dust and gas around it should be apparent.
My thing with this, I understand that and understand and believe and know that there are alien life outside of this planet. But the thing is, it's on every planet in the solar system and most moons on the solar system. So we have an abundance of life, an abundance of abilities of civilizations on these planets that have this use this type of fuel that uses what they call it's Muscovian. It uses what I'm trying to say. It uses a different kind of flying machine. It's not like us where, propulsion. It bends space and time. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so it's nothing unusual about this. This is very real. But his projection, like we are the only civilization at risk. This is the game they play. Like we the only civilization in millions of miles beyond Earth. That's a fake ass lie. That's the biggest lie. Life is everywhere. So there's no need to be frightened beyond reality, It's just ridiculous. This game they play with space and alien life, when you can look and see civilizations and see the UFOs and see who's flying them. Nothing about this here. Nothing about that. That's some alien hunt. Nothing about that there. Yeah, nothing about this here. On Antarctica, on the planet. On the planet. On the planet. On the planet, right here. What's this here? What's this here on Antarctica? You know what I'm saying? What about this here? What this here? What this here? What this be? What this be on Antarctica? What this is? There's more there. Find the hands out. Look at this here. All that there. What this thing right here? What this is? What this be? What that is? What that is? It's civilization. Civilization that was there. This palace that was like it's here. They ain't talking about this at all. Tell us what this is. Or you get to talk about some shit way out there. Talk about this on the minister. Tell us this. Avi Loeb, Harvard professor. Tell us about this on Antarctica. What about this? Millions of years ago. Millions. Talk about this. Palace. Tell us about this. No, you talk about it. Tell us all about this Oumuamua and all this other stuff flying, but you ain't gonna talk about this right here. This may be the answer to all your problems right there. No. UFOs flying right there. They ain't gonna say nothing about that. No. Just the Harvard professor. Yeah. Covering up the lie. Yeah. They'll talk about this on there easy. Black face down in Antarctica. Talk about none of that. Gods of the solar system.